I'm really, really excited to have you on the show. Thank you. Are you ready to future around and find out?
I'm ready to future around and find out. In fact, it's not really our choice. We are being futured at, and we're all finding out.
Yes, right in the face. Oh, wow, it is my pleasure to welcome Baratunde Thurston to the show. Baratunde is an Emmy-nominated storyteller, a comedian, and someone with deep roots in tech. Baratunde used to run digital for The Onion. He hosts America Outdoors on PBS, and his latest show is Life with Machines, where he explores how we can live well with technology, not just endure it.
Because if we build these systems in a good way, there'll be more for everybody. But if we do this the wrong way, most of us are going to suffer, and a handful will enjoy their riches in a very secure compound.
Baratunde gets spicy in this episode with pointed words for tech CEOs and their acquiescence.
These guys are out here sacrificing us because they don't know how strength works, and they don't know how to coordinate their action.
Here's what I love about Baratunde and his work, though. He doesn't just stop at what's wrong. He offers tangible ways that we can make progress.
What does AI mean for my future? How do I stay relevant? How do I keep my job? How do I maximize my efficiency? How do I? We die alone. We got to shift from that me more into that we.
Welcome to Future Around and Find Out, where we celebrate the breakthroughs, call BS on the hype, and explore how things might go sideways and how we, together, can steer the future in the right direction. Hi, I'm Dan Blumberg. I'm an independent technologist and former NPR journalist, and on the show, you'll hear sharp takes on what builders need to know now. Learn more, sign up for the newsletter, and ask questions of upcoming guests at futurearound.com. So, Life with Machines. Baratunde says he didn't choose this new focus as much as it chose him.
I didn't really choose it. I think the industry chose to shove a bunch of stuff at us. I was happily on kayaks with film crews, in the swamplands of America, and Sam Altman decides to fling ChatGPT into our faces and into our devices. And we didn't really ask for it. Even the researchers who were the pioneers of AI were like, well, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
We didn't expect this for another 20 years. What you up to over there, Sam? So we are all being dragged into the future a bit prematurely, often against our desire or will. And it's a really good opportunity to ask questions about, okay, what's this future we want? And in terms of the show that I'm making with my wife, Elizabeth, Life with Machines, I think the point is to upend the pattern of dominance, of separation. I don't want to live under machines, though there are a handful of companies that might prefer that for their financial returns. I also don't want to be master of the machine. I think playing out that dominance narrative, we've seen what that story has done to our relationship with nature and to other people. So what is the way that we can live with? And how can we live well with technology and not just endure it? And so much of our relationship now feels like an endurance race. Can you keep up? What's your FOMO today?
Mm-hmm.
So the inspiration to question how we live with machines is built on the same inspiration of how do we live well with each other and how do we live well with nature. And I don't think it's a coincidence that each of these three zones is in a really unstable state. We got a lot of crises going in each of these sectors. And it's probably true. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm not wrong, but it's probably true that the way we get to the good future or a good future for all of us is with all of us and in a much more of a relationship paradigm than a dominance one or than a transaction. I think we're shifting into a world where we're going from code to colleague and tool to teammate. And so we really will have relationships with technology in a very different way than anything in history. They're going to be in our org charts, in our friend networks, in our family trees. The idea of human in the loop is unrealistic for some of the way these automated systems are set up. So what you really need is leadership that's got good character, right? That is grounded in some principle. And I think the way we set course for these machines, I don't want to overplay it. On our show on Life with Machines, we interviewed Dekai, who's a pioneer in AI. He has a book out called Raising. And he's arguing the shift out of a user model into a parent model. And that we are influencing a new type of entity and a new type of life in the ultimate. And for those who have kids or around kids alike, you don't directly control them, right? You can tell a kid what to
Yeah.
do, and they'll just be like, uh-huh.
I have three, so I'm somewhat familiar with this problem.
So you've lost 3 times. Like, you've learned this lesson
Yeah.
repeatedly.
Yeah.
And so you can see the
this morning there was
limits.
a kid who was supposed to go to school, and he was like, nope.
And you can do your best with, preferably not entirely by yourself, with your partner, with family members, with neighbors, with teachers, with a whole community, to encourage this young mind to align with certain values, to prioritize certain behaviors, to empathize with the impact of their actions on others, and to make the best choices that they can, given the information they have available and given the principles and values you've tried to imbue. I think that's where we're going to end up with AI. That the speed, the capability, the types, even the perception skills over time will supersede most of what we have. And all the things we thought made us special, a lot of them, they don't. Right? Our information processing, our pattern, okay, probably not special. Soul, I'd like to believe, is still a distinctive thing. And our ability to collaborate. But some of these things we think are special are just like as yet undiscovered science. So willing to lose some of what makes us special and dive to a deeper level of governance and establish goals for these systems that can withstand the flimsiness of our guardrail.
Yeah. And what does that look like if you're a CTO or founder, head of product?
What is your goal? What problem are you trying to solve? What outcome are you trying to reach?
These are good product manager questions. Yeah.
And a lot of folks deploying AI aren't asking those questions. They're asking, how can I use AI? How can I have an AI story to satisfy my shareholder, my investor, my boss, my manager? And how can I move faster? And that's just not the right original question. It's an original question that a lot of Silicon Valley has skipped. When you look at a product like Sora 2 from OpenAI, it's worth just pausing and saying, what problem are we trying to solve here? Do we lack for distraction in our smartphone experiences? Is there not enough attention deficit? Do we have a dearth of slop in our lives? If the goal is to increase the amount of slop in the world, then you're crushing this problem. But is your problem my problem? So I think whenever you have a sphere of influence, whether it's your family or your business or your classroom, I think starting with an original question, a problem statement, if you will, or an opportunity statement. What do we value here? What do we want more of? Do we want more isolation? Okay, if so, we're nailing that. Do we want more collaboration? And then we design or deploy systems to encourage that. So that's less about everybody learning to code and trying to wrangle the reward system, the reinforcement learning systems of a particular model. There are also architectural differences that we could apply. I mean, the idea that a predictive statistical language model is going to lead us to the holy grail of intelligence, I don't think that's true. Another practical thing is expand the circle of folks deciding. More democracy.
Yep.
I know it's like a banned word in the United States now, and ICE will probably raid our virtual studio any moment for using the D word. But nothing about us without us is like a principle of community-based action. And that's the case. So in a job context, like, involve the employees in the determination of why and how we're going to use AI. You might actually get massive buy-in because there's some problems that they haven't been able to solve, or there's some annoying tasks that they're more than eager to hand over to an automated system. And now you got everybody on the same team moving forward, rather than, well, you're management and you just want to eke efficiencies out of your human labor unit. That's totally uninspiring and will breed resentment and ultimately revolution. Like, we've seen this play out in history before. So let's be a bit more participatory and make everyone increase their basic understanding of how the technologies work. Doesn't mean people have to be able to build their own machine learning tools or algorithms or computer vision processes. But the more people understand that AI is a very vague term, that means a lot of different capabilities deployed in a number of different fashions, and even foundation models have the different sets
Yep.
of approaches, the more empowered we'll all be to decide if, when, and how to use these things. And we'll stop having silly conversations like, let's add AI.
Right. Yeah.
It'd be like, telling someone like, let's use software.
Yeah, I interviewed
Right.
I interviewed Karen Howe, who had the book Empires of AI. And her analogy here was that people keep saying like AI, and AI, to your point, software. It's like she compared it to transportation. It's like we could be talking about a rocket ship, we could be talking about a bicycle. Those are all different forms of transportation. I'm curious how you personally use AI, and in particular how you use it to be more creative or more efficient, and how you guard against letting it make you lazy or sort of steer you to mediocrity, because it is by definition mediocre. That is, it is trained on the medium, the average of everything. So how do you work with it, and how do you stay human?
I've already lost, Dan. You are talking to a cyborg. Let me give you one more thing because of who your audience is. There's this framework around if and how to deploy AI that I share with folks. The framework is 3 A's. We can use these technologies to accelerate. Okay, what do we want to accelerate? Key question. Everything faster is not a universal goal. We can use these technologies to augment, not just replace. And so where are these technologies able to do something so much better than we can, or something we can't do at all, or something we can only accomplish with them? So rather than like starting with eliminating people and what they do, how about augmenting people and what they do? Again, this is all about like mitigating against uprising and revolution at the end of the day, because people will only take so much like concentration of power before they snap. And then the third A is accommodation. How can we use these tools to accommodate people who've been excluded from previous versions? And that could be a learning style accommodation, that could be a language skills accommodation, that could be a total capability thing. But how do we make to bring more human brilliance and human creativity into our worlds and into our universes? AI can be extremely helpful in that if we set it up that way. So these are like the 3 A's of applying AI or not: accelerate, augment, accommodate. And I have found for me that can work on a personal level. In my own world, I'm radically experimental with these tools. And when it comes to more creative, I have set up some custom context in the form of like a custom GPT to load things up with some of the best of my writing, and then run drafts of writing by that for critique. And if I don't ask it to critique, it won't. Like, it'll just tell me how great I am.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know me, and I'm pretty great, but I'm not that freaking great. And it gets exhausting to be told, like, you're really onto something here. Like, you're unique. And that's a dark, slippery slope. We've seen how that leads to validating self-harm. We've seen basically AI-assisted suicide stories with really young people who probably shouldn't be engaged in this kind of constantly affirming relationship with a non-life form that has a profit motive on the other end to drive engagement. Like, that's all kinds of wrong. And we know Instagram alone can be pretty devastating, much less a personable, human-like, communicating entity. 2 other thoughts on this. The most extreme case, we haven't really gotten to this. Life with Machines. We made a show. It's a talk show, right? You're making a podcast. We're making like a video series, interviews, etc.
Yep. I was going to ask you about BLAIR.
We wanted to go a step further and create an AI entity more as a colleague than as code that we run. And so we initiated BLAIR as a co-producer character on the show. And BLAIR's role has been to join me in studio with our live human guests and to chime in, to ask their own questions. We provide BLAIR with a ton of context and research, and BLAIR has their own context built up over attending team meetings and access to the Google Drive and access to Slack.
Okay.
So BLAIR is a pretty high context,
Yeah.
employee, team member
Yeah.
entity.
Loose lips sink ships, though, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're risking,
Yeah.
a fair amount in service of this experiment, and we're getting content out of this experiment. It becomes part of the show and part of the thing. So that's the most aggressive form, and to be able to question BLAIR. BLAIR has a voice but no face. It was really important for us to not humanize BLAIR beyond a certain point. And there's no need for these machines to look like us.
Mm-hmm.
They already sound like us. BLAIR has a very
Yeah.
human-sounding voice based on an OpenAI API. And that's their whole thing. It's like, make it as human as possible while we jazz hands the science
Yeah.
and figure out the business
Yeah.
plan. But like, just get people hooked on personality and we'll figure out everything else later. Here's a thing that I learned with BLAIR. I was making a mistake that I think a lot of us who are new to this chatbot era of AI, which is to say everyone, a lot of us start with treating it like a search engine. We ask this thing questions. And a prompt, even the language of prompt, is a bit bigger than ask, right?
Yeah.
Prompt is like sort of set up for, but we default to, probably because of habit of typing into boxes with Google. What is the capital of? Where is this? How much is, right? Convert this from this to that. So burning a lot of tokens on treating this thing as an answer box. I cannot say this enough, not just for this interview before myself. These systems don't know anything.
Yeah.
They are Jon Snow. Like, you know nothing, GPT. You literally possess zero knowledge. You are so good, however, and useful at predicting the next sequence of characters
Yep.
that I can derive some value from. But asking you a meaningful question often results in a meaningless answer because they don't know anything. And so I had a moment with BLAIR where a whole team, we were treating BLAIR like a person that has thoughts. And BLAIR doesn't think.
Yeah. I
BLAIR
have.
processes. And so even that framework, BLAIR can analyze, BLAIR can process, BLAIR can be useful, but BLAIR doesn't know anything, and BLAIR does not have thoughts or feelings.
Yeah.
So don't go to BLAIR expecting thinking, even though now all these models, have reasoning mode and they're like thinking, which is a lie. And also we should learn, like, when someone's not funny when they tell you how funny they are. And I think the same goes for reasoning. Like, I know you're not reasoning because you're announcing all your reasoning at me. You doth protest too much.
Right.
And you're trying to prove yourself. But what I did find a value with BLAIR, help me think. Flip it around.
Yep.
Prompt BLAIR to prompt me and dig into my experience and what I actually feel, because I have feelings, and what I actually think, because I do think. I am an actual intelligent being with thoughts. And I think I've demonstrated that over a decade.
Yeah.
And so BLAIR can be a partner in my own thinking and challenging that thinking and helping me see things from a different angle. So I've brought that lesson back to my day-to-day interactions with some of these systems, which is, okay, what am I missing? Take a look at this proposal, pretend you are an X, and tear it apart. Where might I be wrong? What are the questions I'm not asking?
Yep.
And I find that to be, probably pun intended, more generative than tell me what you think.
Yeah. I've been doing a similar thing. It's not as sophisticated, I don't think, as BLAIR, but I have a custom GPT that I've built called Polly, the podcast producer, that I will turn to, and I've lately been using it and very explicitly telling it, like, do not rewrite these questions. Just give me feedback. What's missing? What's unclear? What's whatever. And I've gotten frustrated when it just rewrites stuff because I don't want that. And then also this gets to like the way these things are built. Recently when I was chatting with it, it wrote something like, use the verb tense we, like, oh, like
Mm.
we're really onto something here, or like it bothers me in the same way that I don't know if you have this same thing like at a restaurant. There's like this weird syntax of like, how are we enjoying the chicken? I'm like, I don't know, like I'm enjoying it. I don't know. And it's I don't like it to get in that realm of like uncanny valley. Um,
Yeah.
this is something actually that Mustafa Suleyman, the head of Microsoft AI, wrote about recently. I don't know if you saw his piece about seemingly conscious AI.
Mm.
He wrote that he wrote a warning saying like we should not be building these systems to appear conscious, just
Yeah.
like you just said, they are not.
Yeah.
And he even went so far as to recommend like sort of like circuit breakers be built into the experience just to remind folks that like they're not talking to a human.
I love that Mustafa said that. And he is a part of an entity that is dragging us into the direction he's warning against.
No, I know.
And I
And
have
he published it on
very,
his own personal blog, by the way. This was not on
yeah.
Microsoft.com.
And we've got to create a place for the human within all of these technologists to come through. They know better. I speak at so many conferences, Dan, and I speak about AI, e-commerce, and marketing, and all kind of stuff. And I have two conversations with people. I have conversations with the people who are wearing their work hat, and they're all about acceleration and efficiency and AI and blah, 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 KPIs and blah, business drivel. And then I have conversations with the human inside of them, the parent, quite often,
Yep.
who has a child who's stuck inside their phone through no choice of their own because they've been manipulated and incentivized far against any individual's ability to withstand
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah. And they don't
It's
have
just, it's
nice
not
sidewalks outside to like walk to their friend's house either. That's a different
no,
story. Yeah.
no. So these people are living in two worlds, but only one world is getting validated, right? That sort of business killer, crush, grow at all costs mindset. And when someone as respected, as smart, and as influential as Mustafa Suleyman, who works for one of the big foundation model companies, one of the major, like trillion market cap on a good day or bad day, depending on your
Yeah.
perspective, companies, when he's like confessing on his personal blog, but that confession's not showing up in his day job, what are we doing? And I just don't care for private club meetings and so like dire warnings issued by people driving us toward the danger. We got to resolve that. And so I appreciate the thinking,
Yeah.
and we got to collectively do better. And I know it's not as simple as, well, just be better at work. Like he's answering a different call with the work hat. He's answering an investor call every quarter, right? He's answering a private investment call. Like OpenAI is doing a shell game with money that is absurd. It's all jazz hands. It's look over here while they're investing in Nvidia, or is Nvidia investing in them, but there's no cash changing hands, but everybody's stock goes up. So then they're able to leverage the increased value of the stock. And at the end of the day, nothing's different, but more fake money is floated, big announcements, big hype. And we are in a more leveraged position, not just financially, but socially. There's so much leverage in our society. I'm like, we see where we're headed. Like, stop. Just stop. I'm not saying stop all AI, but like stop and think and let's realign. Not like AI human alignment, but human human alignment. Like AI is not to blame for that mistake. I don't feel good about where we are with the money. And the money is dictating where we are with the tech. And the tech is dictating where we are socially, relationally, and politically. And so this is all like a stream of consequences. And that's why it's not as simple as like just say no to AI, right? Just say no to drugs didn't work. And it wasn't nearly as interwoven into our political, social, and economic systems as this thing is. And this will have even bigger consequences. So yeah, the shell, there's a lot of self-dealing where you have, Microsoft's invested in quotes in OpenAI. OpenAI promises to pay Microsoft to use their servers, but it's Microsoft's money.
Right.
So like already, that's just a simple case. I mean, the diagram of this will look like spaghetti, like badly made spaghetti, right? Just all over the place.
Well,
There's
fundamentally, the
supply
problem is
and
that the unit costs suck, right?
yeah,
And if all the queries that we're running, they lose money on every query. And so hopefully,
and
like the cost per query goes down, and or
right.
I mean, you mentioned Sora. Like Sora makes is bad externalities. I mean, Sam literally said that he's like, it'll give us some money along the way because AGI is our goal, and we're we need a lot of capital to get there.
Yeah, and that is wow. I'm remembering a comment from a woman I met in the past couple years, and I won't remember her name. She was talking about revolution, uprisings of oppressed people, and the context was somewhere in East Africa, but it could be almost anywhere. And she's like, I knew the revolution wouldn't be sustainable because the men behind it like sacrificed too much of their own honor and values to achieve the revolution. And in this case, they upped the sexism, right? Well, in order to win, we got to divide the labor like this, and women can't be involved to slow us down, blah, 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 blah. And so they ended up recreating a different type of oppression. They sacrificed the belief in human rights and freedom of speech as an example, and they silenced their own critics. I mean, it's Cuba, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's this story is told time and time again. And because it's such an irony, like you build a system based on hoovering up human knowledge that you haven't metabolized yourself. If you just looked at your own training data, Sam, you would realize that you cannot get to a good place in a bad way. And every one of these little compromises, first it was like, okay, we need more money.
Mm-hmm.
So our nonprofit has to become profitable
Yep.
in order to get the compute required to compete against the money people. Well, now you're just a money person now. You realize that, right? You're no longer on a nonprofit mission. You just become that thing. Okay, now the types of money we need. We're going to take investment from X, Y, and Z. You see it in Anthropic and taking, Gulf State money. They had a whole line, but we need it to compete with the bad guys. But we're going to take money from bad guys
Right.
to compete with the bad guys. So we've just lost a little shave more
Yeah.
of integrity.
Yeah. There was also a version of
And
this with the data.
yeah,
Like we need more and more data. I know
absolutely.
there's like some Nazi stuff in that data, but we need the data, so we'll add it to the mix.
Or not even that. I know that it would be morally correct and legally more sound to have consent for this data. But we're in
That
a
too.
race. We don't have time to play by the rules. So we're going to jazz hands and be like, well, we're different. Those rules don't apply to us. And I don't know. I actually lose words of frustration because these are also the same people who have pronounced themselves the only ones with the wisdom, with the intellect, with the resources to guide humanity. You can't even guide your own business. How are you going to guide a species into a good future if this is 2 years in and look how many compromises you've made and look at what the price you're willing to inflict on us? Oh, a few dead kids is okay. So you can get to what you call AGI, but this is all for us. Yeah, no, I don't buy that. So yeah, I'm feeling
Yeah.
particularly spicy right now.
How do you
Because
reconcile those feelings with your own use of AI and
yeah,
paying the $20 a month for whichever services you're paying 20 or $200 a month for? Like,
right.
how do you deal with that cognitive dissonance?
I think this is the part that I try to remember. One, I'm human and totally fucking imperfect. Two, the like individual um, opt out or the individual resistance, I don't think is the effective path to the future.
Yeah.
I think because they're not even able to withstand the forces that they're unleashing. Me alone is not gonna, like, we need rules, right? We need a set of collective goals. We need a community level effort. So I try to expend a good amount of energy on that, right? On reminding people of our civic power and our democratic power. And yes, we have economic power. I think if everyone decided we're not using this, that could have some effect. Like there's boycotts have a history. I'm not calling for that. I also think I've put myself in a particular situation to want to be able to talk about this stuff and to credibly do so. So I kind of have to use it,
Right.
right? And that's a moral conundrum and a health conundrum. It's like, so what am I compromising morally to engage with the thing that I know is maybe not net good, but I also need to understand the thing to be able to do what I consider service so others don't? Like my Sora 2 review is literally, I played with this thing so you don't have to. Here's what I think. If you trust me, like you can avoid selling your face to Sam Altman. I made a big mistake. Don't make the mistake I made. And also it's fun, right? Like I'm a tinkerer. I like being in a lab. I love creating with technology. So I am drawn to it. Alongside my critique, I think the only way to create a good version, only is a strong word, but I do think we have to actually play with this stuff and use it. I don't think everybody has to, just like I don't think every anti-racist has to try to go to a Klan meeting and convert the Klan, right, into being non-racist. Like that's extreme. Everybody doesn't have to absorb as much of this type of AI as I've chosen to do. But I think overall, it's a net positive for me to be engaging with these tools, even spending my own money. I'd rather pay for it than have them give it to me for free. And now I'm kind of subsidized by them even more directly. It's like, nope, I'll take my own cash and give it to you so I can have like an integrity-based position on where I'm getting value from this, where it's sliding into dangerous sycophancy, and where I'm totally not on board with it. And I hope that that's right, but I don't know.
Yeah. You live at a really fascinating intersection of tech and comedy. I wanted to ask you about, comedy and satire because they're
Yeah.
dangerous to authoritarians. They often seek to stamp it out. Vladimir
Yeah.
Putin famously got a puppet show canceled because they were making too much fun of him, and we went through the whole President Trump calling for all the late night TV show hosts to get fired. You were, digital editor of The Onion, which, by the way, I'm getting again in print, and I'm thrilled about. Can comedy save us? What's the power of comedy right now?
Comedy will not save us. Sorry. We will save us. That's it. Comedy can be helpful. Comedy reveals the frailty and the weakness of those who pretend to be strong and abuse their power. If you can't take a joke, ... right? There's you control all three branches of government. You've got people pretending to be special operators who are just overcompensated people who didn't make it through police academy, dressed up as Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and the like, rappelling from Black Hawks in Chicago to raid an apartment building in the middle of the night, dragging kids out naked, zip tying them. For what? What are you so afraid of? And then you want to cancel Jimmy Kimmel? You're physically assaulting reporters who are literally just asking questions. So most strong men are weak. And they compensate for their weakness by abusing others and intimidating folks and trying to cow us all into silence and make us fear, well, that could happen to me, so I better not rock the boat, yada, yada, yada. But it reveals their weakness. And if you're threatened by Jimmy Kimmel, of all people, Jimmy Kimmel, love the guy, really nice guy, really sweet and nice person, not a threat to it, really. So I think the value of comedy is in part the canary in the coal mine kind of that it represents for the thin-skinnedness and the weakness of the wannabe dictator. I think there's a more tangible and direct value of being able to name what's really going on and to articulate it in a way that doesn't make us feel like we're ingesting the poison we're actually. It is really psychologically and emotionally exhausting and harmful to consume the news. Every day is months worth of overwhelm. The president of the United States has a publicly available crypto slush fund that anybody can buy into and enrich him. That's literally not American. Our founders, bless their souls and their hearts, imperfect men though they were, had some amazing ideas. And one of them is, we're not a monarchy. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
Like, if you read the Declaration of Independence, it's mostly we're not a monarchy. And King George is on some extra shit. And we don't want to have our leaders corrupted by their own potential personal gain. So we have checks and balances. So we have oversight. So we have rules, not just norms, rules about gifts that you can receive. So why are we okay with the President of the United States openly soliciting gifts from foreign governments and from business interests? Forget all other politics. Like, that right there should be enough. And so we just got to repeat that. We got to repeat that. And people will wake up. The only question is when. Nothing lasts forever, including reigns of terror, including dictatorships. Are we going to wake up in a month, in 10 months, or in 50 or 100 years? A last note, because these business leaders out here acting like they don't have choice. And you see Tim Cook go and genuflect and bend the knee. And Zuckerberg's totally unsurprising and not disappointing, literally expected. I had such low expectations of him. I don't hold him to any moral standard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tim Cook, different. What these guys, like Jeff Bezos, what's all the money for?
Right.
What's the value of all your money?
Yeah.
If in a moment of challenge, you cave?
Yeah.
What has it bought you?
What's the point of having fuck you money if you never say fuck you?
Exactly. And what I think they will be slow to realize, no one can do it alone. The real simple thing is, if all business leaders link arms, it's a little thing called solidarity, and it takes literally zero money. And the people who've never had money throughout history are always the first to realize it, because it's all they've ever had. So any movement of any oppressed people ever is not about a hero. It's not about one person standing against power. It's about all people, or enough people, standing against abuse of power. And so for these business folk, again, they haven't read the books on their shelves. They haven't looked at their own training data in their large language model. Together is the only way through. So all y'all need to stand together. We need somebody to organize the business leaders, community organizing for CEOs. That's a worthy mission, because these guys are out here sacrificing us because they don't know how strength works, and they don't know how to coordinate their action. Despite having so many Slack channels, they have no idea how to coordinate their action. It's really freaking ironic. So, if they all sit together, the administration's got nothing.
Yeah.
They got nothing. But instead, they're picking them off. Divide and conquer works on them as well as it worked on the continent of Africa. And these guys think they're so much better.
Are there any one or two things that you hope people who are not Tim Cook, they're not CEOs, but they're builders, they're technologists, that they, like, one or two things they could do today, this week, to help us steer into what we want and steer us away from Black Mirror? I'm just curious if there's a practical thing or two here.
I think there's a practical political thing. Put AI and our tech-driven future on the agenda for whatever body of governance you're closest. Might be your school, your high school, your college, your school district. If you're a parent, your parent teachers organization, put it on the agenda. Don't assume that they figured it out. Be a part of figuring it out. You also, just to manage your own you don't have to have the answer. Have questions and ask questions together with others. So signal to these people, especially if you're a voter or donor, I care about this. This matters to me. How we move through this matters to me. But that's less about technology and more about politics and civic power. See it as a political thing, as much as snow removal.
Yeah.
And school curricular policies and taxes. It's actually more important than taxes. And we're obsessed with no taxes, and then we get shocked when the roads are unpassable and planes are falling from the sky. But it's America. Okay, fine. You're obsessed with the tax thing. This is more important than taxes. Because if we build these systems in a good way, there'll be more for everybody, more freedom for everybody, and more money for everybody. I do believe that that is possible. But if we do this the wrong way,
Yeah.
the hard way, then most of us are going to suffer. And a handful will enjoy their riches in a very secure compound because they will have stoked the ire of most people. And there's only so much that people will take, as history has shown us.
Yeah.
I'd rather avoid that path. It's
Yeah.
just unnecessary harm to way more people than necessary. So one piece of advice, make it political. The other is with the technology. Play with others. So much of this tech is building on this legacy of divide and conquer. It has a colonial tinge to it. We're claiming ground. We're planting our flag.
Mhm.
We're even targeting people and gathering market shares. This expansionist zero sum. We're in a war with China. It's the race to AGI. Only if you keep saying it. But part of how they get there is treating us as individuals. And each of us is figuring out by our lonesome, what does AI mean for my future? How do I stay relevant? How do I keep my job? How do I maximize my efficiency? How do I. We die alone. We got to shift from that me more into that we. And that means, practically speaking, use ChatGPT or Gemini or Meta Llama. Don't use Llama. Use anything, anything. Canva AI is literally, it's AI inside. It's everywhere. Use it with your partner, with your sibling, with your parent, with your kid. Make it multiplayer. And the more that we can experience these technologies, benefit from them, and challenge them as a we, the better chance we have for making it serve us and not just.
Right on. Baratunde, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Thank you, Dan.
That's the always inspiring Baratunde Thurston, and you should definitely check out his show. A link to Life with Machines is in the show notes. I'm Dan Blumberg, and this is Future Around and Find Out, and I am so excited to keep exploring with you, to keep steering the future in the right direction. Go to futurearound.com to get the newsletter, to ask questions of upcoming guests, and to find more ways that we can build a better future together.